Thank you for joining us. Ben?
Thank you very much for coming here and being part of our studio. We try to treat every project here as unique, and I think there is a kind of alignment in the interest there in clients and what we do, and so we hope we get a chance to build something.
I mean, if you want to let them know that if you have a project you want to reach out.
Yeah, Ben Gilmartin, Diller Scofidio and Renfro.
Hit the email below. Hi channel, this is Won Lee from Architecture Recipe. Today we are at the center of the Manhattan with the partner of Diller DS+R. Thank you for joining us, Ben.
Thank you very much for coming here and being part of our studio. As you mentioned, I'm a partner here. My name is Ben Gilmartin, and our practice is Diller Scofidio and Renfro. As you mentioned, I've been here 20 years, but I came from the San Francisco Bay Area, and the Bay Area had a kind of we call it a countercultural sensibility from the 60s, but it persists until today. And I came to New York with that spirit. And I would say that the studio was founded in around 1980 by Liz and Rick, and they created a kind of counterculture of their own within architecture, that they were maybe against the dominant approach to practice at that time. And they were very interested in a practice that was more about interdisciplinarity, about engaging public space, engaging the social life of the city, and using architecture and artistic practices together to do that. So almost a kind of guerrilla type of architecture, right? And they of course became internationally known for that work. I joined in 2004, as you mentioned. I was very attracted to the whole kind of culture of the practice and the philosophy. And they had just won this commission to do Lincoln Center. And so I joined right at that moment, and we're off to the races. That became a $1.2 billion US project. From something quite small, it grew and it grew and it grew. So yeah, so Lincoln Center was the first thing, and during that era we built a practice that could do very complex architectural projects and could do international projects around the world. We also won the High Line very shortly after Lincoln Center, and so we had both projects happening at once, and they were very strong, very impactful projects, both of them for the mission about public space and the public realm and work in the realm of culture. And so that was effectively how we became the kind of era of the practice that we are today.
When I look into the DS+R's work, not only just like looking or appearance, but also it actually let user to experience something that you weren't speaking out. Because like when you see the Bloor House create some unimaginable space in the beginning, but you try to like giving that like context to the people.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit on a couple of ideas that are very important. One is that we try to treat every project here as unique. We want every project to be completely unique. Unique materials, unique structure, unique details, and that they come out of a study of the place in which they're built, the cultural setting, and of course the needs of the clients and the people who use the city around them, things like that. So that's one thing. Each project is kind of a thesis, or it's its own experiment, right? The Bloor building, I would say, was a thesis project. It was sort of preceded me. The thesis here was to put something out on the water that was made of water. It was a cloud. It had no fixed image because a cloud is always changing, and that the experience that you got from it was about pure being present, like a sense of awareness right now. That when you go inside a cloud, you don't see anymore. So your other senses are heightened and awakened, and you become very aware of your environment. You become very aware of smell and sound and everything. And you become very aware of other people. As you're moving through the fog, you become very socially aware. And I think that embodies a kind of principle that we're super interested in. The kinds of spaces we make, even much more conventional ones, are always about thinking about people's experience and how you make them feel more present, more grounded in their present moment. Like hopefully if our projects are successful, people aren't just looking at their phone the whole time. They're very aware of the people around them, and the spaces that we make are really about choreographing social dynamics. Like they're kind of theatrical, they create interactions between people, and they hopefully get you excited about being in a social situation in the city, like having a social life. So the Berkeley project was really interesting. I mean, I had a very personal connection to that project because I went to Berkeley, and the original BAM PFA building was by Mario Ciampi, this amazing brutalist architecture that was up the hill on Bancroft, this kind of cantilevered concrete. The earthquake happened, and I was there when it happened. It was a very strong earthquake. I don't remember how, but it was, so that building got irreparably damaged, is what I would say. And within 5 years, they tried to repair it, but it still was not considered to be safe. So they had this incredible museum that was being replaced with one. And they took a very different tack, which was to do an adaptive reuse project, which was the university printing plant, where the first UN charter was printed. It was this shed structure with the sawtooth roof that had north light, which was pretty nice for a gallery space, and then a small administrative building. But they didn't have a place to put the Pacific Film Archive, which was the cinema component, the film archive piece. And so the project had to be a two-part project. One was adaptively reusing within the shell of the existing plant, radically adapting by like carving out all the space in floating these trays inside that were new gallery spaces, with galleries below that were dark galleries and galleries above that were tall overhead daylight galleries, really beautiful.
The beauty of the Berkeley Museum is that no one actually expects those space outside the building. Actually, it happened in the inside of the building. Once you walk into it, and then it has like those shape coming out with the color. I think it's the where. Did you really actually strategically plan those color with the hole?
We did, yeah. Well, because we had to cut there's a moment where the tail of the new addition intersects with the structure, the sawtooth structure of the existing building, and passes right through it. That's actually where the cafe is, and it offers these kind of triangular or sawtooth shaped windows down into the gallery. But we made the whole interior space of the new expansion this kind of orange red color. And so you look up and you get these little glimpses of that color seen into that space from the galleries below. So it's kind of it identifies the space, and it creates a visual like contrast or something.
So can you tell us more about your work with MIT New School of Architecture Planning? How is this project shaping up to meet the demand of the evolving academic and technical environment? What challenging or innovation have come with designing for MIT?
The joke we made, I mean, we were very honored to be selected to do this project. It's an architecture school. We're architects, so obviously we have a lot of thought. So they were located in what's called one of the buildings of the main group, where the main dome is on Mass Avenue. The existing architecture school is kind of on the top floors around it, and then it spreads out. But it's above the Infinite Corridor, which is the most famous space that connects all of the traditional disciplines of engineering and science with architecture and design. The plan was to move across the street, and that's where they're moving to the Metropolitan Warehouse building. And this is a great project because it's this historic red brick building, 5 stories tall, 500 feet long and 100 feet wide, that was only used for storage of possession. So it has very small windows, very far apart, very high off the floor. No daylight really gets into the building. It had no contemporary systems to speak of, so life safety, mechanical systems, all the things you need technologically for a teaching space. So to address making the building for a school of architecture and planning, we had to do radical surgery, almost making this into a cyborg or a hybrid organism between contemporary structures and systems and the existing historic fabric. The idea of reusing an old historic brick structure for an architecture school, I think, was a strong manifesto about the future. So our work was to come in working with the Historic Commission of Cambridge and to cut some big holes in the building so that we can insert some new multi-story studio spaces with contemporary structure that's very light, steel structure, keeping as much of the fabric of the building as we could, and then making surgical openings for windows, for offices and things that were very skillfully introduced into the fabric of the historic facades in ways that are quirky and unusual. Like windows, sometimes new windows and old windows intersect each other in strange ways. But the act of cutting out pieces of the building and removing them and then leaving the cuts was also a material idea that you see as you move through the building. 5 additions to the building, each one has a slightly different structural approach and construction technique, and that becomes the aesthetic of the buildings. You see the cuts reveal how the buildings were made in their era, and so you see the historic pieces of the building exposed and then the new insertions lightly floating next to them.
Maybe I got 2 more questions though.
Sure.
So what do you thought on the Korean architecture market?
Great question. So we were honored to be asked on 2 separate occasions in about the last 18 months or so to make major proposals in Korea. One was for the Hyundai Global Business Center, which was a major project. I mean, it was 3 large towers. It was lots of public space. It had retail, other mixed uses. It had a concert hall. It had a science museum. And that was a very exciting project, like really changing a piece of Gangnam District. And we didn't get the ultimate commission to do that, but we spent 6 or 8 months doing an initial proposal competitively. And then separately, we were asked by Shinseki Group, who's a retail group, to do a large proposal for a multi-million square foot mixed use retail. It had also cultural spaces for art, exhibitions, some performance space, as well as a variety of other kinds of space. So I think those were exciting to us because the scale was really thrilling. They were like a noticeable transforming piece of the city. So that's something that's very, we've done a very large scale project. And so we were super excited to make really bold public space proposals and new kinds of cultural spaces in the context of these 2 projects. So we haven't built anything in Korea yet. Been there a number of times. We would love to continue to seek projects there, and I think there is a kind of alignment in the interest there in clients and what we do, and so we hope we get a chance to build something.
I mean, if you want to let them know that if you have a project you want to reach out.
Yeah, Ben Gilmartin, Diller Scofidio and Renfro.
Hit the email below. Okay, so last question. What advice would you give a young architect and young architecture student in Korea who look up to your philosophy?
I think that space will always matter. We talked about that, but people live in space, and so architects will always be needed to make incredible spaces for people to be together in. I do think it's been thrilling for us to go to Korea and to see the kinds of cities that are, Seoul for sure, but these very large, very dense, very energetic cities. Cities are the future of the world. So traveling the world, embracing global culture, embracing cities. I think the last thing, it does go back a bit to the MIT project, the Berkeley Art Museum, to Lincoln Center, to the High Line. In one form or another, a lot of our practice has been about working in existing cities, spaces, or buildings and adapting them, transforming them for a contemporary purpose. And I think this is increasingly important because the amount of carbon that it takes to destroy and remove buildings and build completely new buildings there is a lot. And so I think that there's a lot that can be done. You can do very radical surgery on historic buildings and urban spaces to make them contemporary while still retaining much of their value. And that is a very important trajectory for students going into practice in response to the climate crisis and to creating good urban places. So I think I would advocate, don't be shy about thinking about adaptive reuse and really inventive ways to engage that form of practice.
This is Won Lee from Manhattan with Ben from the Loscopedia office, and we had a really nice talk, and then Ben gave us a lot of insight lesson in terms of architecture, designs, and philosophy. It was really a moment to understand who you are, what you're doing in our architecture field, and try to push the boundary of what you're doing. It's really appreciated. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
All right.